There are the things that you know, and there are the things that you don't know. And then there are the things you don't know that you don't know.
There are certain strategies that you can do that really allow the right people to find you. But ultimately, my ultimate strategy is soul.
It's not quantifiable what it is to show up as a woman as like fully yourself in every realm with no shame, in full alignment.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in.
Hello, family, and welcome to It's Not What You Think. Today, I have a beautiful special guest with me. My client, Carrie Chojnowski, is here to share an incredible story of growth and transformation. I'm so excited for you to hear her story and to just feel the magic and presence that the soul has. So, Carrie, hi, welcome to the podcast. And I would love to invite you to introduce yourself. What is it that you do and what's brought you here today?
Hi, Celine. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And a little bit about me. I'm trained as a naturopathic doctor. I have a full family care practice that's actually physically based in the US, but I've been living here in Northern Italy for the last 4 years. So I really set myself up for a really international practice here. And I treat entire families. I use all the traditional medications, but mainly I love practicing with herbs. I use all kinds of nutritional therapies. And really, I love working with holistic care. So that's what I do within my private practice. And then I'm also co-founder and medical director of a business called In Me Wellness. And with In Me Wellness, we bring really incredible shamans from all over the world to hold ceremony with sacred plants. And that's generally done here in Europe. Some of it is in the US, but I act as medical director there where I do everyone's intake, make sure they're safe to receive medicine, and then I supervise their experience. So I walk in both of these worlds.
And you walk them so gracefully. I've personally been to one of Carrie's retreats, and it was absolutely beautiful. And it's been really gorgeous to watch you be in action. And I'm even, as I'm speaking into this, I'm sensing this is going to be a theme that we're going to be talking about today that I know was really relevant for you as well when you came to me, which is how to bridge these seemingly very different and separate worlds together. And that was what the illusion was, right? Because we then later discovered, I don't want to give away the punchline, but we later discovered that it was one and the same and it was all weaving inside of you as one. So I'm so happy to even be sitting here on the other side of 1 year later of our work together and to really see you own and declare that so confidently. And even in the way that you speak into it, I can sense, again, I don't want to give it away because I know we're going to be talking about it today, but I can sense just the integration in you as you're speaking this and owning it, and how beautifully both of these roles that are so important and relevant in your career and in your life are just weaving together. But before I go there, I would love if you could share with us, we started working together a little over a year ago. And, if you could share, give us a bit of context as to before you came to me and we started this work together, what did your life and business look like? What were the things that you were struggling with and things that you were really butting heads with that ultimately led you to reach out to me? And why is it that you decided to reach out to me?
Yeah. So it's so interesting because when I think about that time, a little bit over a year ago, for all intents and purposes, I was running this super amazing, fulfilling, incredible practice. And all of that was true. And so, I had built this practice really from the ground up when I was living in New Hampshire in the US. And I had really grown it in this grassroots way over about just under 15 years. And it was really great, right? It's my soul's purpose. I love patient care. I love what I do. I love holistic medicine. And when I moved from the US and I decided not to sell my practice, at the time that was super unconventional. Like, doctors were not practicing telemedicine. And it was a really scary move because it just wasn't done. And so my medical malpractice dropped me and I had to find a new, more avant-garde company. And it worked because I moved. And interestingly enough, COVID happened. And so a lot of my patients had stayed with me anyway. And the ones that were a little bit hesitant and said, you know what, I'd really like to keep a more local doctor, they came back because they couldn't even see their local doctors because it was the era of COVID and everything had shut down. So my practice became bigger. It was already pretty big. It became bigger. And I had a lot of success, financial and spirit success. So in so many ways, it was ideal, but it wasn't. And it was this really distinct sense of there is more for my soul to do. There is more that I can't even see, but I know it's there. Sometimes we talk about there are the things that you know, and there are the things that you don't know. And then there are the things you don't know that you don't know. And it was that feeling when I came to you of there is more that my soul wants to do that I can't even really see and I can't understand. And at that time, I had already also been called into this realm of plant medicine, and I had become co-founder of In Me Wellness. But these things were really, really separate. And I kept them that way because I thought, I don't know how my current patients are really going to feel about this piece of me that has been called to plant medicine, that feels so deeply about it, that has had this really profound transformation within it. And so I felt also this disconnect that was not aligning with my soul's purpose, because I don't think soul wants to be disconnected in any way, shape, or form. Like, soul wants to be totally in alignment with everything that you're up to. And so it was these things that brought me to you, these pieces of there's something that I can't see that I need to see. And there's this disconnect that I am just no longer comfortable with having. And all of that ultimately in another, kind of few pieces had to align, but it led me to you.
Mm-hmm. Wow, beautiful. And I know that this is something that, I even want to highlight because it's so present in so many people's lives right now, especially with the changes that are going on in the world with the great awakening or post-COVID, whatever you want to call it, and whatever angle. There's a really big shift that I have been feeling has been happening through humanity, and I know I'm not the only one. There's a whole group of us who feels this together collectively. And one of the trends, I would say, that I have noticed as people are going through their different waves of awakening, especially within their business, is that there's almost this, there's a lot of people like yourself that are well, I'm this, but I'm also this. And, I'm a doctor, but also I'm very involved in plant medicine and plant healing. And I need to hide this part of me so I can show this part of me, right? And even when it comes to those of us whose businesses are engaged in the matrix, which honestly, at this point, is most of us, and we have businesses that is interfacing with the matrix. It's interfacing with mainstream society. Then there's all these collective belief systems and ways of doing, like you said, your malpractice company dropped you because they're wait, what are you doing? You're not doing the thing that people normally do. You're not actually following the herd. So you're going you're pioneering a new path. This is not safe. Okay, bye. And you even said I needed to find someone that was more avant-garde. And I can't tell you how many times I've needed to find an avant-garde accountant, an avant-garde strategist, an avant-garde, like everything, housing person, like what to actually be able to understand my lifestyle and be able to understand that the life that I'm carving out for myself and the life that I'm designing and the business that I'm designing is not conventional. It is not cookie cutter, because like you said, it is in alignment with my soul, and my soul has her own plan. And it's got nothing to do with copying and pasting what anyone else is doing, or, following cookie cutter strategies. She has her own plan, and that requires me to walk that path.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And when you're saying this, what I'm hearing is, the reason why I want to pull it out is because I know that there's so many people listening to this that also have had a similar dilemma of, oh my God, I have a career in corporate, but I also have a side business, or, I'm really passionate. I have this incredible hobby, or I have this passion with, can be plant medicine. It can be dancing. It can be painting, whatever that is. But, I'm an accountant, or like I'm doing IT during the day. So there's no freaking way I have to keep it separate. And when we do that, we create this illusion of separation within ourselves. We create the split that it gets very uncomfortable, because like you said, soul wants to be aligned and wants to be integrated, and we split ourselves into these different identities, and then we hide one part of us because what will people think? What will they look at? Oh my gosh, what if they judge me? Like, what will my patients think if they know about the sacred part of me, which hopefully by the end of this interview, whoever's listening will be able to discover that actually that was not the case at all. But it is that setup.
Not even close.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember you coming to me with this setup in your mental body, like this setup. And I remember the first thing I noticed was, oh my gosh, this lady is splitting herself so unnecessarily. So let's bridge this back together, because it was like some of your energy was just being divided, and it obviously wasn't. It was avalanching into other areas of your life, and it was just creating unnecessary distress. So as I share and speak into this, what I love, if you could share a bit more about, I remember you said when you were deciding to work with me, there was 3 different touch points, which I actually think has also been a trend that, people, that nudge that kept hitting you. And so I'd be curious to hear, like, ultimately, why were you like, yes, Selena, we're going to walk this path? And if you could share that once you said yes to this path, I know there was you shared this with me as well, that there was an expectation that you expected to receive from this experience. And then there was this aha moment when you finally realized what this work was actually about. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So it's so interesting the way that I really ended up working with you. Even now I think about it and I think that it was so synchronistic. And I really am a believer that, when you're ready, the teacher appears. And also, I really believe that the things that are meant for you, they will find you. It's like, if you don't listen the first time when the door, it's knocking on the door, don't worry, they're going to come knock again, and they're going to come knock again. And this is what it was like when I worked with you. And at the time, I actually had never considered working with a business coach ever. It's just, again, it's like thrown into the box of like, you don't know what you don't know. I was like, I just hadn't thought about it. And it started actually with my business partner with In Me Wellness. And she forwarded me this article, and she said, you have to read this article. It is just amazing. This Forbes article is so good. And it was an article that you had written a handful of years ago, maybe in like 2017, something like this. And it was about this realm of plant medicine and really bridging between these worlds, right? This matrix, if you will, this world that we really live in, some of us, and kind of bridging that into this realm of plant medicine and the benefits of doing that. And I remember thinking, like, who wrote this? I feel this. Every one of my cells feels this message. And it was the first time I saw your name. And I remember I kind of put it up here, and I was like, God, I feel everything in this. And fast forward, so, I want to say random, but not random at all in the way that the universe speaks to you, right? I have this very close colleague, Marie Posa, and she and I, we create master classes together. We co-manage patients and clients. We have this long relationship that's gone back to when we were both living in New Hampshire. And now we live in like these totally different places of the world. And I was reaching out to her and she was just rocking it. Like I could see her out there on social media and I saw what she was building and I thought, what has changed with her? Like the way she is showing up is so aligned. Like she's really showing up in this way that I've never witnessed. And I had known her for 10 years. And I reached out to her and she says, oh, I'm working with this amazing business coach and her name is Celine Da Costa. And I thought, oh my God, I've seen this name before. And I remembered the article. And even then, I'm sort of thinking about it like, that's so interesting. This name has come up now twice. And it was shortly thereafter that someone else sent me a video that you had put out. And I actually do not remember exactly what the video was about. And it was about this, or it was like this piece of soul alignment. It had that threaded throughout.
I know exactly.
And that was like this last piece. Yeah, it was this last piece. And I was like, okay, so she's the one I'm working with. And that's why I reached out to you, everything lined up. And it's interesting because for every soul reason, our work together completely aligned. And then of course there was all of the ego stuff that came up around it of like, oh my gosh, like I don't know, and can I, and blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, that fell away. It needed to come up, but it also fell away. And yeah, that's how it started. But you really came into my field so many times before I was this fully aligned yes. Like I'm a yes.
I love that. And it's funny. I'm really glad that you're speaking into this because I also had, different clients have different stories about how they found me. But one of the reasons why I love having you share it is because there's so many times where people come to me, and even in part of the work that I do is helping you get more visible and helping you become more magnetic to your, ideal dream clients, soulmate clients. And, people get very stuck on the how do I need to like set up retargeting ads and like DM sequences and things like that. And sure, there are certain strategies that you can do that really allow the right people to find you. But ultimately, my ultimate strategy is soul. And to just be, as long as I'm speaking authentically, as long as, that transmission is coming through, I'm speaking about the topics that I'm passionate about from my heart in a way that is considering the other person on the other end. There's this confidence that you get to build that people are going to find you. The right people are going to find you, and there's going to be different touch points. But as long, soul talks to soul. And when soul talks to soul, there's no denying it. And, something that I really loved you speak of that a couple people mentioned as well was around, my ego, the ego stuff came up. But I listened to my soul, and this has been a theme that's really come up with a lot of people. It comes in my private sessions, and it's coming out loud in these case studies that I'm doing as well, which is that you have this nudge and you know what you're meant to do. Like, what the next step is for your soul destiny. And then what happens is a lot of people, they get thrown off by the ego, which has tons of stories, and they're not unreasonable stories, like, okay, how am I going to come up with the money? Or like, how do I come up with the time? Can I do this? Am I capable of doing this? Like, they're not unreasonable questions, but a lot of people just get so carried away in the ego story and all the reasons why they can't do something, or they're not capable, or it's not available to them now, which is just pressing replay on the old stories and the past conditioning, which is essentially copying and pasting your past into a predictable future. So nothing's going to change. And then they just get carried away by that loop. But what I love about hearing you speak into this is that you saw it. You came back in and you said, I'm going to listen to my soul, even though it's scary, even though I don't know what I don't know, even though like there's no rational explanation as to why I should move forward with this. I know this is right for me. And I love that because I talk about this so many times about my decision to quit my job and travel the world, about my decision, like some crazy decisions that I've made in my life that made no sense. And then they made sense. And it's really amazing because yourself and other people who have come on this podcast have also shared this recurring theme of, I didn't know, but my soul said yes. And so I I went all in on myself. So with that said, I know that, we had that conversation around, oh my God, I expected that we were going to do this, and then this happened. So would you be able to demystify what your process of not knowing what you didn't know, and then having that click moment that I remember you had about halfway through our work together of like, oh my God, this is what we're really doing.
Yeah. It is such deep, profound work that you do. And it caught me so off guard, because I come in and my soul is a total yes. My ego kicks in, Carrie, like, this is why you shouldn't do it. You can't afford it. This is crazy. All of these things, right? And for all intents and purposes, my belief was really that I would come in and you were going to give me all of these really logistical mental body strategies for how to upgrade my business, right? So this was my idea the whole time was, okay, I'm going to hire this amazing business coach. She's going to give me these tips and tricks with how to make myself more visible, how to reach more of my ideal patients, how to bring in more financial abundance, and how to do it in a way that I haven't considered that really, truly speaks to my soul. And she's going to give me this really like super linear way for me to do the thing and translate it to my ideal patient population. So it was all in this mental body, what we would be doing together. And that was my assumption, were like all of these strategies, almost like being in business school, but on a one-to-one level. And so this was my idea of what was going to happen. And my personal experience, it's not that those things didn't happen. It's not that I didn't get the nitty gritty mental body, logical pieces of like how to create what I wanted to create, how for it to be successful. I of course I received all of that, but that was like a fifth of what I received, because it's not really what I needed. Not really, right? What I really needed and what I really received was the deep soul alignment to show up completely of myself in every single field I was within. And so some of the deepest work that actually I really did with you was, one, I learned how to stop compartmentalizing. I had to have this deep remembrance that we were not designed as women, as people, to compartmentalize our lives. And somewhere along the way, I had developed that as a safety mechanism. And I think that that's very common for certainly many women. I think it's maybe a little less common for men, based on what I even witness in my patient population. But I can say for sure, I think as women, when we are growing up, we become master compartmentalizers, right? This is how I am expected to behave when I'm on a podcast. This is how I'm expected to behave and dress and appear when I'm with patients. When I'm at a dinner party, I should be this way. When I'm with my children, I should be this way. And it goes on and on and on. And this compartmentalization is exhausting. It's not within alignment with soul, because soul wants to be exactly who she is in every single facet in which she appears, right? There's no compartmentalization of soul. And I realized in my work with you, when I was doing that, I was cutting off so much of my energetic potential. And you taught me that, right? I think honestly, when we started together, it wasn't uncommon for me to say things like, oh, I'd like to, but I don't have time. Oh, I want to, but I'm so tired. I have these 3 small kids and blah, blah, blah. Like, we all know this story because many of us have this story. And I didn't realize that really the cutoff of my energy, really the drain, really this concept of I don't have enough time was me just not living in an authentic way. And when I stopped compartmentalizing, when I came into complete and full alignment and I showed up as who I am in every single sphere of my life, which I learned to do really with you, it turns out I have endless capacity, endless energy, and I have a shit ton of time. Like, I have time for everything I could possibly want to do. What I don't have time for is the shit that I don't actually want to do. And so now I say no to that shit so I can do everything like with 150% yes. And that's like work and mothering and wifing and friending and all of the things. And that was like so unexpected. Like, I did not think I was hiring a business coach, like for that. So that was like one of these like huge, it's not quantifiable what it is to show up as a woman as like fully yourself in every realm with no shame, in full alignment. Like, that is priceless, right? So that happened. And then the other huge piece that happened, which I never anticipated in my work with you, was bridging the gap. And it is not lost on me that that's actually, like, you used that term in the first article I saw that you had written for Forbes. It was bridging. I bridged the gap between traditional medical practitioner to true healer. And it's not because my ego tapped into like, ooh, I'm a healer now. No, it was like tapping in to this innate wisdom that we all have that does not come from us at all. It comes only from being tapped into source, and we all have it. And it was acknowledging and giving gratitude to my mental body, like, thank you for what you've learned, and thank you for the studies, and thank you for the discipline. Thank you for the methods that you learned and the tests that you can translate to patients. Like, yes, that's all part of what I do in patient care. But it was understanding that when I'm coming from this place of alignment and I am truly tapped into the divine and to source, I have within me an ability to heal that has nothing to do with book knowledge, with education, with how many continuing education credits I get this year, or what new trick I learn in medicine. It is so far beyond that. And it actually has like nothing to do with me at all. And I never knew I had access to it. And now I have, as long as I'm doing my work, permanent access to it. And it changed everything. And I mean, it's really hard to express in words how much I didn't think that was going to come in business coaching. Like no, not at all.
Which is, it's poetic, right? Because the podcast name is not what you think, and maybe people are starting to understand why I named it that, because it's about going beyond that mental construct. It's going beyond what we think, and really what you're sharing is something that I'm just overjoyed as I'm here. I'm like, yes, you got it, you got it, you but I love it. Because you're right. And, and you're really summarizing what is at the crux of like whenever I'm working with clients privately, or even, I mentioned with you before we started recording that around the time of this podcast being released, I'm also launching a group program called Business by Soul, which is something that's been on my heart to share these codes for a really long time. And, in everything that I do, it's not about like giving you more cookie cutter strategies, more things. to tell you what to do it and how to do it, and this is how, and then like this is the linear plan, and follow every single step, because it doesn't matter. Because once you evolve, that thing becomes useless. Once you grow, that thing becomes old. It's dusty, and it actually keeps you trapped in an old way of being. Like when I give people these, if I were to give people these like strategies that are based on my life and my system and my knowing, it's not based on your knowing. But what's even more profound than that is to show you what's already inside of you, which is what you're speaking to right now, which is like, let's strip away this old conditioning and these stories that you've been telling yourself about you being the doctor, and you need to dress this way at the office, and then you need to be a certain way at a cocktail party, and then you need to show up differently in social media. This is all just the mind's tricks. It's just the ego playing its game on us. And like you said, the ego has a really good function when it's being used in a healthy way. The ego is incredible when, it's like, hey, I need discipline. Let's learn this book so that I can unlearn it and like do something better. Or like, let me engage my mind to be able to learn how to hold the scalpel. And, there's all these things that, of course, like the mind is so powerful when it is in service to the soul. Unfortunately, there's a paradigm right now in society, especially Western society, where the soul is like just kind of just being muffled in the closet, just like locked away. And the mind's like, ha ha ha, I shall take over and run and control everything possible so that I can be safe, from all of the trauma that I acquired in my body from the, a lifetime of just living in a non-supportive environment and society. And now I'm just going to stuff away the trauma too and keep controlling. And it's just this mountain that keeps building because you keep creating more systems and more belief systems and more stuff that you're doing and more work that you're working to basically cover up this growing pile of unresolved, repressed emotional shit, and also just the growing pile of the existential suffering that accompanies not listening to your soul. And not to get morbid here, but that's just wanted to kind of like go there. But anyways, and that's what you're speaking into, which is that no, you're not like doomed to live a life like that. That's like not part of the blueprint of what your soul came here to do. And what you're noticing is that the more you open up to yourself and who you are authentically, and you start to listen to your soul and act from that space, it opens up this faucet of just like source energy that comes from the universe itself. And when we talk about channeling, and when we talk about becoming a conduit for God or for the universe or for the Almighty, whatever name you want to put on it, we're talking about the same thing, right? The quantum field, it's the same thing. It's this bigger energetic force that we as humans can only give it a little name like God. And it starts to, when we open ourselves up and when we allow our bodies to become a conduit for this, you start to realize that the limited energy and the limited time, they're all stories. They're just all narratives that you're replaying that make you think you don't have time, make you think you don't have energy. But truly, when you start operating from the space, you said it so beautifully. I said no to everything that doesn't like light me up. And I started saying yes to what does. And all of a sudden I have more energy. The more I say yes to what I want, the more energy I have. And that's the absolute magic of it. So I'm so happy that you spoke into that, because it's really the way you articulate it is a way that I couldn't possibly articulate it, because I'm not you. Your magic is not my magic. So I'm really happy, because anyone who's heard this hopefully can really resonate with the way you explain it. So what I'd also love to hear, because we've been talking about these are the really big, unquantifiable transformations that you've received from doing this work together. And what I'd also love to do is land the plane as well for people who are like, okay, Carrie, but what about your business? What happened there, right? So if you could speak into what were the key transformations that you experienced when it came to your business, both within me as well as your doctor practice.
Yeah. So in terms of my private practice, even when I came to you, I knew that my fee schedule was not really in alignment anymore. I found myself like in between patients, feeling resentful at times, feeling like, they're asking too much of me. Like there's too much. There's too many emails to respond to. There's kind of like too much administrative work. And when I really tapped into that, it was like, okay, what's really happening here? If I can honestly say, I love what I do. And I was like, can I say that? Yes, I can say that. What is not aligning for me to feel any resentment whatsoever? Because that's on me. That's entirely on me. And so when I felt into it, it was that my fee schedule was really off. And I wasn't charging in a way that was in alignment with what I was giving so that I felt nourished, right? So that people could reach out to me and I also felt nourished. And I said, I'm so happy to be present because there's this mutual nourishment. I'm getting what I'm also giving. And my ego kicked in there, and it had been for a long time because I felt it, but it was also this reality of what right do I have to charge more, right? So I'm already a bit on the fringe, right? I don't take insurance, and I dropped that many years ago because I realized I couldn't work within that paradigm and give what patients actually need for care, the time, the quality, the attention. So, years ago, I realized, okay, I cannot work and use insurance. And so I had left that many years ago. And I did that within my egoic brain of also saying, okay, I can charge a bit, but I can't charge too much because then no one's gonna come see me, right? So that fear component. And then I think there was also this other component of that I know we all do. It doesn't matter like what industry you're in. I am sure that each person, when they are determining their fees, they're like, what's everyone else charging? Because whatever everyone else is charging, if I'm within that range, people will still come see me. And if I'm outside of that range, nobody is going to come see me, and I'm going to lose everything that I've worked for, the story. And I certainly had that story. So is this acknowledgement of like, I'm resentful, I'm not nourished, I need to change my fee schedule, and I'm freaking out because my egoic brain is saying, Carrie, you're going to lose everything that you've built. People are not going to come see you. It's not going to happen anymore. And I also had this story of if you make your practice elite, right, only for those who can afford your rates, you are going to lose patients and you're not going to be able to serve as many people as you actually want to serve. So I had this whole story, and you and I really worked extensively on that. And by the time I changed my rates, which actually I changed them twice when I was with you, by the time I changed my rates the first time, I refused. I remember this. I would not even look at what other practitioners in my field were charging because I really had to remind myself, I'm not them and they are not me. And I don't know what Sally Smith down the street is charging, but it's not any of my business. It's not any of my business because the people who are going to get called to Sally Smith should be with her. And the people that are going to get called to me should be with me. And so it was this piece around everything that is for me is for me. And if I can charge a rate that is nourishing and allows me to show up like feeling my best self, like full of energy, full of abundance, full of this ability to give of my skill set and of my person, then I'm doing my job and beyond my job. And I can charge a rate that is nourishing for me to show up in that way. So that was one of the very big early changes that I made when I was with you. And I was able to do it because you were really able to hold me in that space, because I had a whole story about why I couldn't and what might happen and I might lose patients, etc. And within that story was also a story that I held that I was not responsible enough to steward significant wealth. And this was a big story, right? I was successful. I was making great money, like financial abundance, absolutely. But there was a limit. There was a cap that I had put on it because I had this belief of like, okay, I can steward this much, but I cannot be responsible for this much. And it was something that I had learned along the way. So that was where a lot of my storytelling to myself had come in, was you do not deserve, Carrie, to steward that kind of wealth. And I had to knock that whole story apart from like the very, very bottom. Because what I realized in that process was when I opened myself up to stewarding that kind of abundance, I was able to give exactly where I wanted. So if I had a patient that came to me and said, I feel so drawn to you, I can't afford your fees, and I felt that alignment, it allowed me to say yes because I was still nourished. And then those for whom they were happy to pay that fee, there was an energetic alignment. And so that story that I was able to dismantle in my time with you on an energetic level, but also really like on a mental body level, and going through my stories and my patterning, allowed me to totally change this fee schedule that I had created. And that's something that has been so powerful in allowing me to really run my business exactly in the way that I want. And because I did that, and because I learned that in this really, I want to say linear, it wasn't linear. There were linear aspects, and then there were soul aspects, which are never linear, right? So there was both at play, but it also allowed me, but it allowed me to also show up for that which is truly important in my life. So it actually allowed me to be more present with my children and to not feel like I had to work these like crazy hours, because I had more abundance coming in. And so more abundance was also going out. And this was a huge change within my business. So that was one huge piece. And then I would say the other huge piece was when I came in, I was very limited in who I was able to impact, because it was all one-to-one, right? So the people that I can support in their well-being are the people that I'm seeing one-to-one, and I can support them towards optimization of their health and every goal that they have. But it was limited to how many hours I have in the day, how many people I can interface with one-to-one. And I learned in a very linear way in my time with you how to share my skill set that didn't include only these one-to-one avenues. And as a result of that, I was able to really create from my soul, from everything that was just like aching to come out and be seen. I was able to create master classes. I was able to create all of these really incredible resources for my patients that then they can send to their family and their friends. And I did it from this place of like abundance. Like, I can't wait to share this stuff. And then within me wellness, this ability to start thinking outside of the box and to start considering, okay, how do I create exponential influence? How do I wrap my brain around this? It allowed me to start creating an integration program for In Me Wellness that I feel like will support those who are involved in plant medicine and will allow them to continue their exponential effect. We've started the creation of a nonprofit foundation that hopefully will support our planet at large. And so it was really the skills that you taught me on how to think bigger, how to think bigger than one-to-one, because my soul thinks bigger. My soul wants to influence in a greater way. And I'm not in any way belittling my one-to-one patient work. I love it. I have like this incredible passion for it. And when I create and I know that I'm creating for more and more and more people, to me, it feels like, that depth of soul's purpose. And it reminds me that there are really no limits. And I needed strategy for that. I had no concept of how to do that before we met. None.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. God, I love this. And I love just just the way that you started to really weave the in me and the doctor practice, like your medical, I don't know why I keep saying doctor practice, your medical practice. Sorry, I'm not in the,
It works.
It works. The medical practice and really allowing yourself to impact more and what you recognized around, like, yes, I have the one-on-one and I can support all of these people, but and there's more. And I resonate with this so deeply as well, is that I love my one-on-one work, clearly. And I also love to create programs where people can go through. And, something that you said that was really important. It's a common objection for a lot of people when they're thinking about raising their rates or changing their pricing, is like, yeah, but I want to help everyone. I want to be in service of everyone. Right. And that can be the truth. Yes, I want to help everyone. And in this current stage, where you're at right now, where your resources are, where your energy is in this moment, what is it that you have the capacity to do? And as you know, your story is very much sharing with us, is that capacity can grow. P.S. The capacity can grow. And it's important to get clear on where your meter is in that moment in time. And if you're feeling depleted and you're trying to help everyone, that's inevitably going to lead into burnout. It is not healthy for us to operate from that space. But what you're sharing is really beautiful. And it's something that I look to instill both in my business and then, when I'm working with people, which is that, okay, let's get really clear on, okay, you want to help all these people, and who do you want to help next? Who's like that soul service group that's really important for you, which in this case is your patients. And then once you really establish a really clear energy exchange there, and it feels really good and it feels really nourishing, you'll find that instead of operating from a place of depletion and then resenting that you can't help more people, you'll find that you'll start having, your cup is going to be overflowing to the point where you can turn around and be like, you know what, maybe you specifically can't meet my rates, but you're so in alignment, so I'm going to take you anyways. And it doesn't feel like it's, oh man, I'm lowballing myself, or I'm cutting down on my worth. That's not the energy anymore. It's the energy of I'm in overflow that I can give, and I know I can speak for myself. I create so much free content, this podcast, like the posts that I do, the videos that I do. And I know that I'm able to do that when I'm in that space of overflow, and I'm able to give more and create more because, I'm like, okay, well, I've got all this energy. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to give, and it's really, really beautiful to hear you say it that way, because from that space, that's when we look at creating, okay, what is a masterclass that's near and dear in your heart? And what is a group program that you want to do? Or even for people who aren't in that industry, is there a certain, we talked about creating a really powerful PDF that, like a little ebook that you can serve patients with that are based on your expertise. There's all of these different solutions and all these different ways where you can start to create offers in your business where you can help a lot more people than you quote unquote have personal capacity for, because then it becomes about leveraging your time. And like you said, soul is infinite, it's expansive, it's going to reach a lot of people. And on the physical realm, there are strategies that we can use and implement to make sure that, you're not working 12-hour days, you're working the hours you want to work that day. And in that amount of time, the way that you concentrate your conscious awareness and your creations are designed to offer things to many, many people over space and time. Like you said, you read an article about me that I wrote years ago, but that article still lives in time and space. And so that article, even though you read it years after I wrote it, it still found you with the message at the right time. The video that you watched was filmed months before you found it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that video, someone found it next month and they said, okay, Celine, I want to take your course. I want to do your work. So it's really important to suss this out. And I want to really make sure that anyone who's listening understands that when you start to create your business from your soul, the solutions to your quote unquote problems are endless. There's actually so many solutions that you won't even know what to do with them. And when you set your intention and you focus and you're disciplined, like all the things you've mentioned, and you say, okay, this is what I want to create, then the solution, it's just a matter of plucking the highest, most probability from the quantum field and making it your own and saying yes to it. So it's really cool because yes, you're capable of doing anything that you want to create, and the ego might be overwhelmed by that. But when you're in soul and you get that nudge, you just keep taking those steps in alignment, and you're going to realize that the solution is going to find you. So, and that's what you experienced, Carrie, and that's what I love hearing you share with us. So there's a lot of pieces that clearly you've created and have come up for you in our work together. And what I would love if you could share with us is, if we were to summarize this, to take everything that we've talked about in the past 40 something minutes and wrap it up in a clean bow. In summary, what would you say has changed from before and after you doing this work together? And what do you feel you're walking away with that is of most value to you?
Yeah. So in summary, the biggest transformation for me was becoming aligned with my soul's path and remembering exactly what that path is. I became fully embodied. I dropped everything that kept me compartmentalized or separate. I stepped into what is true nourishment in receiving so that I can give in total and complete abundance. And because my soul was so clear that it wants to reach more people and become more expansive, I created other streams of creativity that really allowed me to do that in a way where I have endless time, I have endless creative energy, and authentically endless abundance. It also allowed me to magnetize every single patient who's really meant for me. Every patient that finds me now is aware of who I am at a soul level because I don't hide it from anyone. And so it's also allowed me to reach exactly who it is for me to reach. And that's whether I'm in private practice, that's whether I am in ceremony within Me Wellness or doing creative projects there. And so it has shifted my entire life to one that is really aligned and abundant. I've never operated at this level my entire life, really. So it's like, it has created for me what I did not know was possible. And I'm not sure you can quantify that. I think you can feel it from me, but it's a difficult thing to quantify. I've tried there, but yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And, for those who are listening and wondering whether this is the right path for them to take, would you be able to share your, feelings and thoughts on who do you feel that this work for someone who's considering either private coaching or group coaching with me, who is this for and why?
Yeah. I was thinking about that. It's certainly not for the faint of heart. Let's say that. Yeah. I think when you are called to this kind of work, it's almost like akin to when you're called to plant medicine. For those of you that really understand that and feel that, you just know that you're called. You know that your soul is really crying out for a depth that it is not in this moment experiencing. So, I think working with you is for anyone who feels this very deep awareness and resonance of there is more for me. There is more that I was put on this planet to do. There is more in me to give. And I am not able to really see and understand and work past whatever limitations are in my way. So I think anyone who has that feeling and has that calling and know that they were put on this planet to create more is such a good fit for this kind of work. And I think even when you have that experience, buckle up because your ego goes through the ringer. Like, I've been terrified and I've been sad and I've been angry. Like, man, have you held me in some intense moments of anger? Like, you just go through all of the emotions. Your ego is like a kicking, screaming child, and like your soul is essentially like gathering up these shattered pieces of ego like every step of the way, and like, come here, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. And so I think it's for those who know there's more and can feel it, like it's so tangible, and yet it's like there's a veil, I can't quite reach it. And for those who are like, I'm ready, like I'm ready to completely dissolve so that I can become the greatest version of myself. And those are people that will thrive in this work.
I love it. And it's beautiful because at the time that this recording is being released, it will be around the time that I'm actually introducing my group program that I share with you, which is called Business by Soul. And Business by Soul is what's within everything you've shared up until this point is the journey that I will be taking people in a group setting, which is really around how do you tap into the authentic truth of who you are? How do you get clear on what your why, your mission, your core values are, who your soul service group, aka your ideal audience is? Like, and these are all pieces that we worked with together around, getting clear on yourself, getting clear on what the function of this business is. And if you have multiple businesses, what are their independent functions and how do they actually work in harmony instead of separation? And who is it that you're serving? And, what kind of offers, like you said, we've talked about today with Private 101. And then there were masterclasses that you created. There were downloadable products that you've created. And so all of that entire process, which is linear, but isn't linear, like it's both, it's strategy and there are frameworks and there's methodologies that you can apply, that your mind can understand and sink its teeth into. And it's also a lot of energetics and really understanding what is it that wants to come through you in your unique blueprint, which is why it's not necessarily like a business course to show you how business is done in this like really linear fashion. That's definitely not who it's for, but it's rather for people like yourself who want to say like, what am I made out of? And how can I really create a business that is in complete alignment with my soul? And that every single part of this business is designed by me. And what you found is that by creating, your business by soul and by design, you've created a business that is financially nourishing. It's in alignment to who you are. It works in harmony with your other projects. There isn't a separation, between you and your social media and the cocktail party and the mom. It's all working together as one. And so I'm sharing all of that because, I also recognize that for those listening, there's going to be many, many more people that perhaps that I have spots, just being real, for that I have openings for private coaching for. And so it might make sense for, some of you listening and even those who want to say like, okay, I maybe not ready for the big containers, but I want to try this out and I want to get this started. I want to dive in. So for those people, I know, you've taken some of my courses, you've taken my master classes, you've taken several of my courses and, group programs. For those people who are like, okay, well, how would it, you're a private client, Carrie, like, but how would it feel to be in a course setting? Would you be able to speak to your experience going through my digital products and through the courses? And based on what I've shared about this program, I know you haven't gone through this specific program, but you've gone through premium pricing, you've gone through Love Money Again, you've gone through my storytelling courses. What has been your experience, and for anyone who's listening and considering, how would you advise them?
Yeah. So, the reality is I did private one-to-one coaching with you. I did a Voxer membership with you. Both of them were different. And when I was doing this one-to-one coaching, I had access to your whole library. So it was great because in between our sessions, I could really say like, okay, I need more. And I could really go into that library and choose from it what I needed. But I will tell you, as much as the one-to-one coaching was like beyond impactful and so necessary, the product suite that you have changed things in super profound ways. And actually, I would say that, mastering your story was one that really shifted things for me because it allowed me to start to understand, because I had never been introduced to subconscious patterning and my own belief systems and what my triggers were. I had never really considered even what I imagined my ideal life to look like, or what my story really was, like what is valuable about my story. I didn't even really know what my story was. So mastering your story was actually huge for me, in understanding myself, the value of my story, but also understanding that prior to mastering your story, I really had no idea what was making me tick. Like I had no idea of like why I was behaving the way I was, why my beliefs were what they were. It was super eye-opening. And even if I had never worked with you one-on-one and I had only done mastering your story, I would have been changed. The way that I presented to my patients would have changed. So many things would have changed. So it was really valuable. And actually, some of the biggest money lessons I learned, because it's been a huge journey for me with money, were in your master classes there. Learning to Love Money Again. And there was the other one that you have. There's the one that you have that is like a master class, but it's really a course. It's like 5 hours.
Yeah. Love Money Again. Yeah, it's a
That
course.
is Love Money Again. That changed my entire relationship with money. I had never thought about money in that way. And actually, one of the biggest take homes from that was having a conversation with my finances. Like, money, how do you feel about being in, like, locked in that credit card debt? What do you think about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, money, like, what do you think about being in this place? How would you feel about that? Like, treating money as a consciousness changed things for me profoundly in my relationship with money. And I realized that that can seem so light, like, okay, you started looking at your money. No. I started becoming intimate with my money, looking at it every day, kind of like gazing at it. Like, where do I value you? What do I value about you? Where can I say thank you? Where can I say, I don't really want to have this part of our relationship anymore. I'm really letting it go. It was like developing this conscious relationship around it. And that actually was emphasized in our one-to-one work together. But the truth is, it was that course. So I feel like there is so much abundance in your courses as well. It's the same level of work. It may not be as like tailored, but I'm kind of giving it that option. But the truth is, it did feel tailored. It was like exactly what I needed. So you're able to create that also in your programs that are not one-to-one, which is, it's a game changer, really.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing your experience. Yeah. And for those of you who are interested in learning more, the ones that you mentioned, it's Love Money Again. Premium Pricing That Sells is the one. So Love Money Again is around healing your relationship with money, as Carrie was sharing. Premium Pricing That Sells is around what Carrie was sharing about getting in deeper connection with your rates and your pricing and your basically how you're pricing your offers and making sure that they're in alignment and giving you that nourishing exchange. So for those of you who want to raise your rates in integrity, that would be the masterclass for you. Master Your Story is actually currently housed inside of The Journey, which is my 12-month vault. It's essentially a container, 12-month container where you have access to every course, every training, my entire product suite at your fingertips. It's a treasure chest of my frameworks and methodologies, and really a way for you to lead yourself through this journey. The one that, as we've described with Carrie, and not only that, to have touch points with myself that look like group Q&A calls, as well as Q&As for the live masterclasses that I run. So there's also an opportunity there for you to be personally coached by either myself or one of the guest experts that I bring on. So those are the ones. And then for Business by Soul, that will also be something I can include in the show notes for those of you who are interested in coming and joining us. I can't speak to, at the time of this recording goes live, I don't know the exact date, but it will be in the show notes when the doors are going to open. This is a open doors, closed doors. So there's closed cohorts for now for this. So just make sure that you get into the next cohort. Is that something that you are looking and feeling, your soul is feeling called to join? So anyways, Carrie, thank you so much. This was just so powerful. And I'm just so happy to just hear your story and to hear you speak into these concepts all together at once. Cause I know, you had the little mini breakthroughs here, and you had another breakthrough and another aha moment. And there's a Voxer message there, and there's a text message there, but it's just really powerful to sit here together and really just summarize and bird's eye view, eagle's view of everything you've created in the past year, and just being like, wow, so freaking cool. This episode is just a living testament 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, for us to tap back into it and just remember what we created at the stage. And I just cannot wait to see what now, as this version of you that is leaving this episode today, what you're going to go off and create in the next year, because I have no doubt it is going to be formidable. So with all that being said, for those of us that are listening and saying, oh my God, Carrie, give me more of that, please. Would you be able to share with us, where can we find you, and where can, people go and connect with you if that's what they want to do?
Yeah, yes. And thank you for having me. It was actually a gift to be able to speak all of this, right? Because it allows me that eagle view of ooh, yeah, a lot happened there, it's good to talk about it, and to let it really sink in. And for those looking for me, I'm on Instagram at Dr. Carrie Ann. Also at In Me Wellness is our Instagram for all of the sacred plant medicine ceremonies that we have, or drcarrieann.com or inmewellness.com. And I can be found at all of those places.
Beautiful. And definitely go check her out. She has some incredible content. And if you want to see how it's not how it's, I don't know how it's done, how it looks like, how it feels like to be in that integration of, yes, this woman is a very talented doctor and she's a medicine woman. What does it actually look like to blend the two together in an integrated way, and what that journey was for her? Definitely go check out her content, because you can just have an embodied experience of it. Just receive the transmissions. They're really good. I love it. So thank you so much, Carrie, for coming in today. And I know I'm going to talk to and see you soon.
I have no doubt. Thank you. Super honored. Bye, beauty.
Yoo-hoo! Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning in to today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.